Hello everyone! On behalf of Rainbow Loom, this is Angelynn, formerly known as TutorialsByA here on YouTube. Today I'll be showing you how to create this laced up bracelet with Beadmoji beads. Many years ago, I made a tutorial for this bracelet on my own YouTube channel, and I'm so excited today to be accessorizing it with you all. I'll be showing you step by step how to create this bracelet and how to loom these Beadmoji beads into the bracelet. For this bottom bracelet here, I used Rainbow Loom's Bracelet Boutique kit. That kit is one of my favorite kits, not only because it comes with these beautiful pastel bands, but also it has 2 looms in it, which means that you don't have to create an extension for many bracelet patterns, and you can just make an entire bracelet with the pattern all the way around. But if you just own one loom, not to worry, today I'll be showing you how to create this on one loom with the extension so that way you can still fit this bracelet to your wrist. To make this bracelet, you will need a Rainbow Loom. I have the Rainbow Loom 2.0 here, but you can also use the original Rainbow Loom as well if you have this. You'll also need a hook. This deluxe bracelet making kit comes with this bead hook and a normal plastic hook, but today I'll be using my upgraded metal tipped hook. This is great for if you have a bracelet design that has a lot of tension on the rubber bands. Today, the bracelet isn't super high tension, so you will be okay using a plastic hook as well. Of course, you'll also need some Beadmoji beads. Today, I'll be using 6 of these, however, you can use as many as you would like. For the single chain portion of this bracelet, I used 14 bands. They are these green bands here that also help hold the Beadmoji beads in this bracelet. These blue and pink bands make up the laced up portion of this bracelet since they kind of look like shoelaces. I used 24 of these total, so 12 of the blue and then 12 of the pink. These white bands here are cap bands. They also help hold the Beadmoji beads in place. I used 11 of these total. And then for this extender chain, so that way this bracelet fits my wrist, I used 5 rubber bands, but depending on your wrist size, you might need 2 to 10 of these rubber bands. I have a relatively small wrist, so these 5 rubber bands fit me very well. Of course, you're gonna need a C-clip or a G-clip, either works for this bracelet. So I went ahead and counted out how many rubber bands of each color that I would like to use, and I laid them out here. Before beginning, you want to make sure your loom is oriented correctly, so I'm going to make sure that I have an arrow here that says 1. And another easy way to tell that your loom is facing the right way is that these pins should be in a U shape. The first bands we'll be laying down are the ones in this green single chain here, and here they are from the front. Today I'm going to use white. The first band we're going to lay down is going to help us close up our bracelet easier later, so I'm going to put this just on this bottom pin. Now we're going to make our single chain, so I'm going to take a rubber band, place this on the bottom center pin, and pull this upwards. So you should have something like this. We're going to continue this process all the way down to the end of our loom. Up here at the top, you're going to go to the very end of the loom, so your entire loom should look like this. Next, we'll place what I call the laced up bands onto our loom. They are these pink and blue rubber bands here, and for me today I'm going to be using this blue and this mint color. Taking my first color, I'm going to place this on this bottom center pin, and I'm going to extend it diagonally to the left, but not to this pin here. I'm gonna skip that pin and I'm gonna go to this next one up here. Doing the same thing to the other side, I'm gonna place this on the bottom center pin and extend this upwards to this second from the bottom pin on the right. And then we repeat that process with our other color. So I'm going to the next center pin, placing this here and extending it upwards parallel to this rubber band here. And then we're doing the same thing on the other side. My next rubber band color. And we did skip a pin when we placed down here, but from now on we won't be skipping any pins. As you can see, these consecutive pins all will have rubber bands on them. Try to make sure that your rubber bands are staying in the order that you're placing them on. So I'm making sure that I'm pushing the rubber bands down and keeping these layers in order. And as I'm going, I'm pushing my bands down on the center pin to make room. And here is my completed loom. The bands we'll be adding next are the cap bands, which are these white ones on this bracelet here. And for this today, I'm going to be using yellow. There's several ways you can do this step. The first way is to twist with your fingers. So I'm going to twist this rubber band onto itself. So that way I have this band that's doubled over. Then you're going to place this on these 3 pins here. So I skipped these bottom 3 pins and I placed the cap band on the next 3 pins up here. Another way you can do this is to stretch this across these 3 pins, do a twist, and then reapply them. I'll show you one more time. Stretch across, twist, and then reapply. And see, I got my bands out of order on the side here a little bit, so I'm going to go straighten this out, make sure that this yellow band is up here. The last way you can do this is using this plastic hook that has the cap band applicator at the end. So I'm going to take my rubber band and double it around the end of this hook, like this, and then insert this into the center pin and slide this cap band down. From here you can take your hook and stretch this outwards to the right and the left side, so that way your cap band extends across all 3 pins. So when I get to the end of my loom, I'm going to place this cap band on here, and you should have the last 3 empty. We're just going to take a different color. This is the color of my extension chain and the single chain that's running through the center here. So on this bracelet it's green, and I'm going to use this color instead to do the cap bands on this last set of 3. So now you should have a cap band on every set of 3 pins except for your very first set at the very bottom here. And now it is finally time to start the hooking process, so I'm going to rotate my loom 180 degrees. The pins should now be upside down U's, and there's a number 2 right here with the arrow pointing up. At this time you want to have your Beadmoji beads handy because we will be adding them throughout the hooking process. So our first step for hooking is this center pin here. I'm just going to grab this band and hook it upwards to the next pin above. You want to make sure you're not reaching from here under the cap band. This white band is the cap band. You're going to reach inside and grab that band. Next we're going to hook these 2 bands here, the blue bands here. And technically you should be reaching inside and using the back of your hook to push these white cap bands out of the way and then grabbing this right here, this blue band. However, a little cheat here, you can grab from right here and pull it off the pin that way. Just be careful because there's a lot of tension with this cap band, so don't yank on your rubber bands too hard. And those will both be hooked upwards to the pin that they came from. Next up, we'll be adding our first Beadmoji bead, and you're going to slide this onto your hook like this. And you want to make sure that the way that you slide this on is going to be the same throughout your bracelet, otherwise you might have your beads facing different directions. So have it oriented to where it reads from your direction. Slide your hook in from the right or the left if you're left-handed. And then I'm going to use my finger on my right hand, my pointer finger, to hold this down on the hook, like this. So I'm inserting my hook into this pin that we hooked our bands onto in the last step, and I'm reaching inside all of them, using the back of my hook to push these bands out of the way, and I'm grabbing this very bottom band, which is this band here, that's running vertically. And with this band here, I'm going to slide my Beadmoji bead off of my hook, just releasing it onto this band, and then I'm hooking this band upwards here onto that pin. And now we've transferred our first bead. So then our next steps are the laced up bands, which are these ones going diagonally here. So I'm going to reach in here, doing my little cheat and grabbing this band from right here, pulling it around, and hooking it onto this center pin here. And you kind of just gotta act like that bead isn't there and hook it around the bead. Again, doing this to the other side, being very gentle and pulling this onto this pin up here. Make sure to push your bands down so that way things don't start falling off and falling apart. So on this bracelet here, I used 6 Beadmoji beads. I skipped every other cap band, so you can see these white cap bands here. Every other one is holding a bead. So that's what I'll be doing here. So since we just added a bead onto this cap band, we're gonna skip one, and this next vertical band that we hook is not gonna have a cap band on it. Pull very gently onto this top pin. If you're seeing that there's a lot of tension here, I'm gonna run my hook around this pin here, kind of let that band collect itself a little. And then I'm gonna hook the laced up bands on the side here. And then since that set did not have a bead on it, I'm gonna add a bead now. So I'm taking my next bead, sliding onto my hook like this, taking my pointer finger, holding this down, and then I'm inserting this into the pin here that we had just hooked our bands onto, and I'm grabbing the bottom center band, pulling it off of this pin very gently, and then I'm releasing this bead onto this band and hooking it upwards. It's okay if it turns upside down, just turn it back around. Then I'm gonna push my bands down to make sure that we have room for the next bands that we're hooking, which are these laced up bands on the side. So this pin can be a little challenging, so go slow. Since we just added a bead, I'm gonna skip this pin and not add a bead onto this one. Just gonna hook it normally. Remember to go slow. And on the next one, I'm going to add another bead. Holding this with my pointer finger, the hook's opening should be facing upwards. Then I'm gonna reach in here, grab this bottom band in this pin, and then releasing this Beadmoji bead and then hooking this band upwards. Turning that around, and then we're hooking the laced up bands next. And I'm having this go around the outside of the Beadmoji bead. I'm not going like that around it. Then the next one does not have a bead, so I'm hooking this normally, releasing tension as needed. So we're going to continue this process to the end of our loom, and then I'll meet you back here once I start reaching the end. Now for this last set of pins, I'm going to add my last bead on. And it looks like it doesn't have a cap band going around it, but this is actually going to be inside of this cap band. So all of them are going to be in the cap band below. And now we are going to remove most of this bracelet from the loom. So follow along for this part to make sure that you're removing the right bands. I'm going to remove first all of the cap bands from the sides. These are under a lot of tension, so you want to make sure that you're not just using your hands to rip the whole bracelet off of the loom. You can use your fingers to remove these though if you would like. Now when you've reached the top of your loom, I'm going to rotate my loom this way, and we're going to hook this little rubber band that we left loose down here. So I'm going to insert my hook into all of these rubber bands on the very end pin right here. And as I do that, I'm going to reach around here and I'm going to grab this loose band at the bottom. So making sure my hook is in all of these bands, because if you don't catch one of them, your bracelet's going to fall apart. And I'm going to grab this very bottom band with my hook and pull it out. So I just have this band here on my hook. I'm going to wrap it around and then add this end that I'm holding with my left hand and put it onto my hook. So now this rubber band is holding all of the bands on this pin. If If you miss all of them, go ahead and try again with this white rubber band here. You can let that go because this pin is still holding all of your bands here. You won't lose your work yet. So now that we have this on our hook, I'm gonna extend this up or stretch this upwards onto my hook so that way my hook is now holding all of this. And then I'm gonna start at the bottom of my loom here and I'm gonna pull these bands off. And now you can take everything off of your loom. And you can take this very last pin's bands off too. So everything's being held by our hook now. And obviously this bracelet needs a little bit of help to clean it up, so we can go ahead and do that now. So like I said earlier, these cap bands, which for me are yellow on this bracelet and white on this bracelet, are the ones that are holding our Beadmoji beads in. So we're gonna make sure that all of these are holding our Beadmoji beads because right now they're not inside of the cap bands. At the very end, you have your first yellow cap band or whatever color you chose, and this cap band here is gonna be the one that this first bead goes into. So a little bit tricky, but try and grab these two cap bands and stretch them around both sides of your Beadmoji bead. Like that. Fix it in there. And we have set our first Beadmoji bead into our bracelet. So you're gonna continue. We have one yellow cap band here. I'm skipping the next one and then going to the third one here. And this one is the one that's gonna go around our next Beadmoji bead. Like that. I'm skipping the next yellow one and then going to this fifth one here, and that's the one that this Beadmoji bead's gonna go in. There we go. Skipping the next cap band, and then this seventh one, I believe, is the one that this bead is gonna go inside of. And then our last one, or no, second to last one, is gonna go in this cap band here. And then now our last one is gonna go in the very last yellow cap band on our bracelet. As you can see, our other bands are still a little bit messy. I have some ones sticking out here. So I'm gonna stretch my bracelet a little bit so that way they all get situated and even. And there we go. I love this color combo and how it turned out. Now we're gonna make our extension. If this fits your wrist and you have a small wrist, then you can go ahead and add your C-clip to these bands that are on this hook here. But for me, this is too small, so I'm gonna add 5 of these extension bands here. To do this, I'm gonna take my loom and I'm gonna add 5 bands here. First, you wanna make sure that your loom is oriented correctly, so I have this number 1 here. I'm gonna place 5 bands in a single chain here. If you're having trouble deciding how many bands to do, one of these is about 1 centimeter long. So however short this bracelet is for you, however many centimeters short is about how many single chain bands you'll need. I'm gonna rotate my loom 180 degrees. At the very bottom here, I've got a 2 now, and now I'm gonna transfer these bands from my hook onto this very bottom pin of my single chain. So if your single chain is a little bit further, just put this on the bottom pin. To do this, you wanna be careful and make sure that you don't let go of this white band here that's holding all of your rubber bands until it's fully on this pin. I'm gonna stretch it so that way my fingers kind of go inside the same 2 loops that my hook is holding. I'm going to extend this onto this pin and transfer it onto the very bottom pin of my single chain. So now they're on here, and then we're going to hook this. Taking my hook, I'm going to push the top 2 layers of rubber bands backwards, and then I'm going to grab the very bottom layer of rubber bands, which is just the single band here, and I'll hook this up here. Had a layer fall off, but this is what it should look like. Now we're going to hook our next rubber band and continue this to the end. So now that I've hooked that, I'm gonna grab my C-clip. This one came in my deluxe kit. And I'm gonna grab these 2 rubber band layers that are on this very top pin that I just hooked all of my bands onto. Or my last set of bands, I should say. So once you make sure that this C-clip is holding all of the layers on this pin here, you can remove this from your loom. And if any bands are twisted here, I'm gonna untwist them so that way they lay nicely. And then we can attach the two ends together. And we are finished with our laced up Beadmoji bracelet. Thank you all so much for watching this tutorial. I really hope that you enjoyed making this laced up Beadmoji bracelet. If you're not already following Rainbow Loom on their social media accounts, they're all linked in the description box below, along with their website where you can purchase many of these rubber bands and supplies. They have a ton of different Beadmoji kits available, so you can buy whatever beads that you'd like to use for your laced up bracelet. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in Rainbow Loom's next tutorial. Bye!